Welcome. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about multiplying matrix operations. So we're going to read through all of these notes, but by the time we've read through them all, if you're still a bit fuzzy on what's going on, don't freak out. If you're anything like me, it's only when you see an example where things really start to click. So we're still going to read through all of this. You're still going to give me your full attention, but don't freak out by the end of it if you're still a bit fuzzy. So once I read through all of this, if you're still a bit fuzzy, don't freak out. Okay. Product of two matrices. You can only multiply matrices when the number of columns in the first matrix is equal to the number of rows in the second matrix. If this condition is met, we say the product of the two matrices is defined. If the condition is not met, we say the product of the two matrices is undefined. Let's go through this little diagram here, which is very helpful. So here we have the order of the first matrix, and the order is m times n. So m is the amount of rows I have, and n is the amount of columns I have. Over here, we have our second matrix, so we're multiplying these together. This is the second matrix. This is the order of it, so n times p. N is going to be the amount of rows I have, and p is going to be the amount of columns I have. Now, according to my definition up here, in order for matrix multiplication to be able to take place, the number of columns in the first matrix has to be equal to the number of rows in the second matrix. And sure enough, I have n columns in the first matrix and n rows in the second matrix. So because the amount of columns in the first is equal to the amount of rows in the second, we can multiply these matrices. So because they're both n, the same number, we can multiply these matrices. So as you can see here, we've got same, so can be multiplied. Another really great thing, and let me grab another color here, is that we can actually determine what the order of the product of the matrices, so that is the result of the multiplication, we can determine what the order of that matrix will be by considering this and this. So as you can see, this, so as with these arrows, this will give the order of the product of the matrix. So once these two things are multiplied together, the order of that new matrix will be m times p. That will be the new order. And all of that is nicely summarized down here for us. So for the multiplication to be possible, the number of columns in the first matrix has to be equal to the number of rows in the second. That's what we saw here. Then secondly, the answer or product matrix will have the order m times p. M times p. The number of rows from the first times the number of rows from the second. And that's how it works. Now, as I said, if I read through all of that and you're like, what on earth does any of that mean? That's fair enough. Once we go through an example, but it will start making a bit more sense. So yeah, we'll pause here and then we'll continue on very soon.